And I will tell you, first of all, thank you all for being here tonight. It's almost through tears that I thank the people that made this possible. We do have a few words that we want to share. It's a few thoughts. I wouldn't call them words and wisdoms, but I'm going to give you my perspective on a few things. In general, the story that I want to talk about tonight is the Erie story. Somehow, a working class son of Erie, first generation college graduate, was able to survive a rocky start, get a great education, have a great career, and become a general officer in your United States Air Force. And you see the picture over my shoulder here? My mom, Louise, my dad, Ed. My father would be 101 years old the day after tomorrow. Born in rural Mississippi, and literally, I can say that hands that pick cotton in Mississippi put stars on these shoulders. That alone should make you be proud to be an American, right? One generation success story. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. There's an outline there. You've heard so much about my background. We're going to jump back and forth and try to cover a few key points that I hope you'll consider as you go forward. All right, so that's my family. Mi familia. Which one am I? Do you know? What? Say what? She said the good-looking one. Yes, Sandy, that's correct. That's correct. My thesis statement here today is that everything you need to know about success, at least everything I need to know, I learned and got that foundation here in Erie, really before I was 20 years old. The foundation from my father, the hardest working person I've ever met, right? He worked at GE during the day when he wasn't laid off. When he was laid off, he worked as a mail boy. He was 40 years old. They called him boy. During the day, he sold hair care products door to door. If you knew my dad, he was like an introvert like you wouldn't believe, but he musters up. Then at night, he'd gone into the Lower East Side, gone to the bars, on the Polish and Italian bars. Back then, if you're Polish or Italian, that was considered diversity, right? They were like the minorities of that era. And for $15, $20, $30 a bar, he'd come in clean. So 20 of those jobs fed our family for 9 years. So I learned everything I needed to learn about hard work right there, right? My mother was the visionary. She was the one, I heard a yeah in there. Can I get an amen? You know my mother? Can I get an amen? Amen. You knew Louise Bolton. My mother believed anything was possible in this country. Anything was possible. You want to be an astronaut, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, run a marathon, so you could do it. You can do it. Right? And so she was the one that put those positive messages about be bold, put yourself out there, take a chance, risk. She was never unsure or afraid in any social situation. Never met a person like that. So I had all I needed. Didn't execute much. I was kind of like, which Bolton? You know, which Bolton are you? Are you which one are you? You know, are you the violin player who played the piano, the marching band, the jazz band, the junior fill? No, that was Karen. Were you the gifted tennis player, first man on the tennis team, number one man on the tennis team, basketball player, played 5 instruments, went to Pitt on a full-ride scholarship, maybe the most talented teenager I ever knew? No, that was Daryl. How about the basketball player who was the star wrestler, section champion? No, that was Rodney. I was just like out there, right? Was not motivated. I heard one of my classmates say I was bright. Yeah, but, you know, they actually, when I went to Academy Day, they pulled out my transcripts. So I still haven't looked at those transcripts because I know what they say. I was an indifferent student because I could not connect anything that was good for me in the work they wanted me to do. I mean, you can't make me care, right? And I think that's one of the challenges you have with young folks today. You can't make them care, right? You got to show them. So what happened? How did I change? Well, I guess first I'll say a little bit. Do you recognize me there? This is me in high school. I did get a few good attributes here in Erie. It was a very different world. We used to go down to YMCA. I was 9 years old. Rodney was 8. You give $1 each. We take the bus from 32nd and Brander Street down to 6th and State Street. We hang out all day. We run around the neighborhood, and a parent would go to jail today for turning loose an 8 and 9-year-old. We ran the whole city, right? And you ride your bikes around, right? So we're very independent, right? And I was in Boy Scouts. I wasn't a great Boy Scout, but I loved it. Some of my first opportunities to be a leader. Got a little taste of leadership, was good at it, liked it. Emmanuel Presbyterian Church. So a couple of interesting things happened in Emmanuel Presbyterian Church. So in those days, when I was in a situation to talk about diversity was me, right? So when we went to, I don't know what Mom was thinking in 1962 when she marched her black kids into that all-white church. I don't know why she thought that was a good idea. I don't know why. And we did make some lifelong friends, and we had people that never spoke to us the whole time we were there. That's all right. It's a free country. But we learned how to fit in anywhere, right? We can go anywhere, work with anybody, get anything done we need to do. Any Bolton can do that, right? And we also learned values in those days. When a person was involved with the church, it was really not telling other people what to believe or people what women should do with their bodies or who someone should love. It was about how do you make yourself a better person? What standards you set for yourself, not for others, right? And how to persevere through tough times. And so we learned a few things there. But a turning point, well, again, the number one thing you want to do if you want to create a successful human being, pick good 2 parents, right? That's the first real advantage that people get is coming from a 2-parent family. Game changer, right? There's data, it's worth numbers, right? For me, the turning point came when I was sent, I went to Edinburgh out of high school because I'm good at standardized tests, so I woke up one day and I'm in college. Mom kind of made that happen. And it turned out that in college, you had to go to class and do the work and study to get good grades. Who knew that? Who knew? Did anyone know that? Right? I mean, the Mojavarians girls, they knew that, right? My girlfriend and her sister are here with sister's husband, my latest family. So I didn't last long at Edinburgh, and so they sent me south to live with my sister and her husband. And my sister, much older from my mom's first marriage, raised in the South, went to college, double major, English and French, was a teacher, married a college graduate. I went to their home, and I said, wow, and she's only 10 years older than me, like a second mother, disapproving and domineering. And probably the most overall talented person that I have ever met in my life was my sister Jewel. We really thought she could do anything. So I live with them, and again, they're 40 years old there. They were around 32 when I lived with them. They had a nice house, a nice car. They had money. He went to work with a coat and tie. I had worked at GE. It's like fire and brimstone. I was like, this is work. And when you went to a restaurant, you could order anything you wanted, right? And that was a new experience for me, right? So I thought, I want this life. So I enlisted in the Air Force. Light bulb See the cartoons light bulb come off the head? A light bulb, a game-changing moment after which nothing else was the same for me. So I joined the Air Force. I enlisted. I knew how to work hard, so I started working hard. I was a cost management analyst during the day. I was on the basketball team. Volleyball, played a little football, very little. Went to night school, but I wanted to be an officer. Of course, the word was that, well, enlisted folks don't make good officers. You're not officer material. You're not college material. But, Louise Bolton's son didn't really hear any of that. So I went to the education office. We talked to Mrs. McAuliffe. She said, have you ever heard of the Airmen's Education and Commissioning Program? Right, we'll promote you to staff sergeant. Your full-time job will be to go to college. You get room and board. You get help with tuitions and books. And I was like, then after 3 years, you go to officers training school. You're an officer. I'm like, who do I have to kill to get this? Sign me up. Well, there's one catch. You had to be good at math because they only really needed engineers. They really wanted electrical engineers. That's the most math intensive. I said, I'm a wizard at math. I'm a wizard. Which, in fact, okay, so I'll be 70. We will be 70 years old next year. I will be 70 years old next year, alone apparently. And that was the biggest lie I've ever told in my life. I had to take algebra. It's on my transcript. I had to take algebra twice to get through high school, right? But it turns out if you go to class and do the work, so we start with Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Algebra 3, Calculus 1, 2, and 3, Physics, Chemistry. 2.5 years of night school, good grades. University of New Mexico, electrical engineering degree. I'm an officer. Another game changer. Another game changer. I tell you, there's a lot of talk among folks about do you need a college degree or not. I'm not mad at anyone who doesn't think they need a college degree, but here's how you'll know. If you see people that have what you want and they have a college degree, you need one. If they see people that are where you want to be and they have a college degree, right, then you need one, right? It's that simple. If there's a career field like medicine, nursing, right, law, where a college degree is required, you need one. So you shouldn't be really thinking about whether you need a college degree. You should think about what do you want to do? What do you want to be? That'll dictate whether you need a college degree or not. Right? So my career field, if you don't have a college degree, we won't look at your resume. It's really more of a how many masters do you have? This is a little bit about me in the early years of being an officer. We won't talk about it a lot. I worked research and development on intercontinental ballistic missiles. This is the Peacekeeper ICBM. You see those cones there? The Peacekeeper ICBM was one that could have multiple warheads hit different cities. The City Killer only had to deploy 50 of them. We believe it won the Cold War, right? Because they couldn't keep up. And you're welcome. It was easy to be the best. It was easy to be the best, right? Because really, it turned out being the best was just about outworking everybody else, and the best people are the ones that do the things that the average people aren't willing to do. It's not rocket science. Well, actually, it was rocket science. I was always the funny one in high school, they'll tell you. Grade school, Wilson, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. I was more focused on that, really. So we focused on being the best and getting those early promotions, and we did all those things. But then I became, a major, and things started happening really fast. About 50, 60% make major, 1 or 2% make it early. I made it 2 years early. 30 or 40% made lieutenant colonel, 1 or 2% make it early. I made lieutenant colonel 2 years early. I pinned on major in April of 1 year and made lieutenant colonel in October of the same year. So things started going really fast for me. And I got sent off to school, Defense Systems Management College. 6 months of program management, Air Command and Staff College, a year of national security strategy. And an interesting thing happened to me at that school. It's another game changer, another light bulb moment. You know, I started really becoming focused more on critical thinking. And the farther away from engineering I got, the better student I became. I graduated with honors there. But I really decided that my gift, such as, you know, I didn't get really any place on talent. It's a lot about the teams that I found and who supported me, would really be on leadership. That would be the focus of my career. And it's really hard to be the best and really tiring to be the best individual. And it also can be kind of lonely. But having the best team, you know, and you notice some of the best coaches weren't the best players, right? I mean, Phil Smith, Steve Kerr, you know, if you follow basketball. And so that's what I really focused on. And, you know, so I have a few words there on middle manager skill set. You know, technical expertise is the foundation, right? You should know something about it, but it's really about getting to know your people, right? And setting individual expectations, but then the results are evaluated as a team, you know. And so a couple guys back there we played sports with, we've talked about those things for quite a long time. So I did have a chance to have some staff jobs. We had an opportunity to be in the National Security Council during the Clinton administration. And then the Bush administration won. A couple pictures there, another example on leadership there. You see the Pentagon near White House there. You see me years later looking very intense on C-SPAN. I'll tell you, you know, it's kind of a funny story. So, you know, I'm a space guy. I'm in the Pentagon. I'm minding my own business. You know, all good stories start with, I was minding my own business. And so they called me down. Chief staff wants to see you. He goes, well, they want you to be the budget director. I said, the budget director? I don't even balance my checkbook, right? I haven't worked. I was a cost management analyst 2 decades ago. 11 days later, I was a budget director. 70 days later, I'm briefing a $160 billion budget on C-SPAN. Not because I was so smart, it's because I was afraid to tell them I couldn't do it. Mom wouldn't have had that, right? You can't say you can't do something. You're a scrappy kid from Erie. You can do anything, right? Right? Let them show you that you can't do it. The White House was interesting. You could talk about that all day. I got a chance to be in the White House on 9/11 and 9/12, which is more important. But you see Condoleezza Rice there. You see the president on the side, and you see Steve Hadley in the middle. So I'm in a meeting just like that with the president. It was maybe 10 or 12 days into the new administration. I'd set up a discussion with the senior 4-star generals and the president, right? And I worked for Dr. Rice, and then everything was on email, so all these packages had gone around, signed everything off. I had worked all it, and I'm sitting in kind of there in the cheap seats. And the president gets up. He goes, "Hey Jim, he had to do a congratulations call to Menachem Begin, who had just won the presidency of Prime Minister of Israel. Get up, fade into the wall. President goes out. Everyone's waiting. President comes back. And I said, okay, you know, I was already on thin ice because Steve Hadley had already threatened to fire us all, right? I mean, Steve Hadley called us all in the first day. We got 3 kinds of people here. We want people to stay until we figure out if they work off of this administration. We got people that we want to stay until we get their replacement, and we got people who want to clear out their desk by the end of the week. And I'm thinking, you know, janitor's son, I'll do anything, doesn't matter to me. But I wanted to try to be nice about it, right? So she comes back in with the president. They're resting in there. She stops the president, all these 4 stars waiting. Goes, Mr. President, I'd like you to meet. I'm in uniform, not in uniform. I'd never seen her before. She'd never seen me. Goes, Mr. President, this is Colonel Ed Bolton. Key member of our staff here. He put this all together. He's a space guy. He's going to do great work for us. President looks at me and goes, Spaceman, how you doing, man? How you doing? Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. That's what all he ever called me after that, right? And he does not. He's from Texas, right? He does sound like that, right? So later on that evening, we're down in the Roosevelt room, and looking out over the Rose Garden, Washington Monument, full moon, talking to Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld standing under a portrait of John Kennedy. And he's saying, I was a freshman congressman, and President Kennedy in this room came over and spoke to me. He said, it's one of the biggest days of his life. I was like, it's one of the biggest days of my life. I was just honored to be part of the White House staff. I ran into Dr. Rice. I said, Condi, our first name basis there. I said, I didn't even know you knew me. I didn't know you knew who I was. I just want to thank you for introducing me to the President of the United States. And she says, Ed, I'll never forget what she said. Goes, I've seen your work. I've read your resume. I've talked to folks about you. I'm honored to have you on my team. We're going to do great work together. Now, how do you think I feel about her as a leader? Have you ever heard a bad word about her from people who worked for her? Ever? No? Tells you all you need to know about leadership right there. Leadership is about how you treat people. Leaders provide an environment where people can do their best work. Leaders fight their people's battles. They dive on the grenade for them, right? That's what leadership is. Leadership is about the team. It's not about you. And I learned some of that from Condoleezza Rice. So this is what I enjoyed the most. I certainly love small teams because it reminded me of being back in Scouts or the oldest brother of our little group, right? But leading larger teams, you are leading people who themselves are leaders. So really, it's the cream of the crop, right? They need to be good, right? And so you empower them, you invest in them. I had an opportunity. So we don't want to turn this into a talk about the space career field, but may I indulge just briefly to say, I was mostly a space launch guy. I'm a veteran of 100 launches, 100% successful. Knock on wood, I would never go back because I couldn't want to risk that 100-0 record. At a space launch site, you see the console there. You have folks that work the radars, the optics, the telemetry, the command transmitters that control the system and collect the data. You have people that control the rocket themselves, and then you have people that control the payload. The payload might be astronauts. And I had all the jobs on the way up, and as the wing commander, I had command of it all and gave that final clear to launch. And so that was one of the great honors of my lifetime. And then also being the wing commander at Patrick, you had base housing, you had everything, right? And we don't go, us Erie people, you don't go on, I never want to be the black general, I want to be just the best general. But I will afford myself this one thing. So the biggest, most important launch base in America, launcher shuttles, Patrick Air Force Base, I was the first black commander. So I will take credit for that. I will take credit for that. One thing. Again, from a historical perspective, I don't want to, we never thought of ourselves as black Americans. We thought of ourselves as Americans who happen to be black, right? And there's a difference. Don't let anybody tell you there's a difference. If we don't connect as Americans first, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. So I retired from the Air Force 10 years ago last month. 10 years. Time flies. And as he said, I worked in the FAA, and I worked at aerospace. He talked about that. Ned and I, my girlfriend, traveling the world, traveling the United States. I'm totally retired, right? Paid off house, couple bucks in the bank, good pensions. We're never going to work again. Never. Well, on the anniversary of Mom's birth, a young black man was murdered by a cop. I still haven't watched that video all the way through. And when I watched the inhumanity in his face as he did that, like you wouldn't do a dog like that, right? So my former CEO called me and said, Ed, would you come back and help me transform this company to better focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion? I felt called. I felt like I had to come back. And so we did that for about 3 years. I won't go into all the goals and all this good stuff and the metrics. We focus on recruiting, retention, representation. We did something that hadn't been done before, and we, as part of the senior manager's bonus, we gave them the opportunity to set a diversity, equity, and inclusion goal, and they get more money based upon how well they executed against their goal. Now, I will tell you, senior managers, you don't get to be a senior manager or vice president, right? You don't get to be that year pretty darn good. You would be amazed at how good these people got at DEI when they got paid more money if they did it. You'd be amazed. You could you to a person, the vice president of the company, they should be able to do anything. They can figure it out. Set some goals, hold people accountable. And suddenly it happens. And not because, oh, you want to be a nice guy, right? But there's good data. Diverse teams are better than teams that are not diverse. Watch any sport. You can see it right there. There's good data on it, right? You know, if you follow football, you may know who Bear Bryant is, University of Alabama, one of the greatest football coaches ever, all-white teams forever. Went out into a bowl game and played against my alma mater, USC. And Sam Cunningham, Randall Cunningham's big brother, ran all over him, right? Destroyed him. Now, he wasn't any friend to blacks any more than anyone you could name, but he said, get me one of them colored boys, right? Suddenly, he's the DEI advocate, right? Because he wanted to win. Next year, they did better. I won't talk about space. He leaked it. Okay, so I got called again. So Thursday, I started another job. I'm the number 3 in command, the Federal Aviation Administration. I'm the chief of staff there. 45,000 folks. It's a great time to be at the FAA. People are returning to flying after COVID, right? We have air traffic controller shortages. We have close calls on the runway. What an opportunity to do some good. So here we are again. So my final thought as I talk to folks that want to ask about success, you could offer success models based upon how well you've been educated, and I'm very fortunate. You know, I have 3 college degrees and 3 fellowships. You know, I spent 9 weeks at Harvard, and they which made me an alumni, and they sent me a letter asking me for money. Right? Okay, right. So I'm serious. You know, you could say it's your education. You could say the big events in society that have touched you, but I would argue the real measure, what really defines you, is the people that provided you love and support and made you who you are, right? It's the people that provided you the values that you have, the people you look up to, the role models. You know, someone carried you in your body for 9 months before you were viable. Somebody put a roof over your head. Somebody made sure you had food on the table. You had safe passage. And if you want to, and people think, you know, there's so much struggle with people in terms of, I see so many people being indecisive about challenges and what do they want to do and that. And for me, my North Star, when I have a difficult decision, I say, well, the people who put me where I am, would they be proud? Right? Would my mother and father, would my sister, right? The people who've gone on before me. We lost the last one. Jewel passed away June 18th. Only 79 years old. The strongest person I ever met, right? Too much energy, right? Trying to do too much for too many people. So if you can look back and think of the people that put you where you are today and think they'd be proud, then you will be fine. So I leave you with that. Thank you all for being here. A special shout out to the people that knew me back in the day. 3rd grade, sports, football, basketball, Academy High School. People from Canada, my new family, my girlfriend, my little sister. Thank you all. Thank you. God bless America. I'll take questions on it. My sister's going to come up and give a couple of questions, Q&A. Before you say something, this is my sister, Dr. Karen Bolton. Dr. Karen Bolton went to Academy High School. She struggled in high school. She got her folder today. She dropped out from high school, joined the Navy. She got a GED. She got an associate's degree. She got a bachelor's degree, a master's, a PhD, and became a college professor. She's retired Navy, retired college professor. And this week, she was reelected to the school board in her hometown of Bremerton, Washington. Karen Bolton, happy Veterans Day. Congratulations.
Thank you. Whew. So I waited all my life to put you on the spot. Who was the better looking Bolton in our family? I need to know, everybody needs to know this. Thank you.
Yeah, give me something hard, right?
So most people don't, as you can see, you really are to put me in coach, I can do it. So how are you able to just jump back out of retirement? Because I was looking forward to being retired, but now you're back in the game. Why do you have this mentality, put me in coach, I can do this?
A lot of it was mom, right? I mean, when I first said, I'm going to go get a double E degree, no one thought that was something that was feasible. Matter of fact, one of my best mentors, when I said I wanted to be an officer, said, listen, guys, don't be good officers. And so we've already had that. And when you're from Erie, you're kind of underrated, underappreciated, passed over, looked past sometimes. But us scrappy Erie kids can do anything, right? Right? Don't we believe that? And I'm still waiting for something to prove me wrong, right? But I think one pattern that when I try to talk to people about being successful at work, if you really look at it, I know people struggle with bosses, and it's something I don't understand, because really your boss is your advocate, right? Because if you do well, it makes your boss look good. So you and your boss should be partners to get it done together. And the last job I had, Steve Isakowitz, we worked together on White House staff. He was the CEO. I was the senior vice president. He called me back. This job, Mike Whitaker, when I was an assistant administrator at the FAA the last time, he was the deputy administrator. So he called me back. So I think it's a great compliment that, I haven't put a resume out for a long time. It's people who have known me and have worked with me and say, because really, after picking the best parents, the smartest thing you can do is pick the best boss, right? Now, I say pick best parents tongue-in-cheek, right? You have zero control over that, but really, you in terms of a boss-subordinate relationship, the subordinate is really in charge, because you can always go somewhere else. And let me tell you, a good person can always find a better job. Right, Nana? She just did that recently.
So, we went to a couple of the schools. We saw a lot of things. What were some of the some of the things that some of the students said really affected me? So I want to know, how did that affect you as you were doing the Q&A session with the students?
I was troubled and also uplifted. So I spoke at Erie High, I spoke at the Eagle's Nest, and I spoke at Collegiate Academy, which used to be Academy, used to be Tech High. So I had 3 opportunities to speak in front of students. And they're a theme, and obviously Erie High is different than Academy in terms of the populace. I feel the students were asking questions. They were looking for hope. They're looking for inspiration. They're looking to hear that there is a path for them, which is the whole purpose of me being here, saying, you couldn't come from more humble beginnings. We were at 460 East 18th Street. We weren't the wrong side of the tracks. The tracks were behind our house, right? and moved uptown to 3124 Brandes Street, right? Which was 2 miles and a whole world away, because by the time we met, we went to from Garfield to Lincoln, by the time we met up those same kids again at Wilson, those kids were on a path. As a matter of fact, one of Karen's best friends, when we were talking about coming here, just a few you were going to reconnect with when you came here, passed away. I'll say her first name, Holly. 10 days ago? 5 days ago. Overdose. And we could name all day reckless behavior, overdose, beating up your body for years and getting cancer early, violence, prison. You can name them all day of what happened. So in talking to the students, they're looking for hope. And I will tell you that, people say, what would you change if you go back? I wouldn't change nothing. It's the things that you struggled with, that you fought through, that make you who you are. I take away some of that struggle, maybe I'm not what I am here today. And right now, it's a tough time to be a teacher. Go look at the suicide rates for young girls. And go look at, the suicide rates, drug rates, dropout rates for LGBTQ kids. So it's a tough time. And then plus you have the media. It's like you've got, you have a picture. We had 2 channels. And remember when they got the 3rd channel? You go, okay, you watch either Bewitched or you watch Beverly Hillbillies, all right, or you watch Bonanza. How much, how can that get in your head? Hey, little Joe's in trouble again. Right? Now it's like you have a studio in your face 24 hours a day giving a version of you that you can't be. Right? Guess who's not on Facebook? Right? Not on TikTok, Instagram. Guess not.
And this is true. Irritates me about you. You have one email that you've had for 20 years. He's not on any of that stuff.
Nah, I don't need it. Guess who doesn't have self-esteem problems, though?
So most people don't know this, but as I've watched you and your career and how you've grown into the man I see today, you really, truly are a servant leader. And so I need to commend you about that. How are you going to go into this job being a servant leader and doing the work that you want to do?
Well, I think, the number one is that, your job is only as good as your boss. And so I'm working for, this last few times, good friends. And I feel I have the authority and the top cover to do what I need to do. And so I plan on taking care of business. And, one of the things that, having 2-year-long schools focusing on strategic thinking, you can come in there. And I think the best folks, if you think of hockey, which Erie's a big hockey town, you got Wayne Gretzky. He said he didn't skate to where the puck was. He skated to where the puck was going to be. And I think if you think strategically, you can see where things are coming, see where you're trying to get there. Then you just put a plan. And it's always, for me, it's always been very clear. It's why I need an engineering school. It's like engineering school, it's like show your work. So my struggle was in trying to explain it to other people, right? So taking that vision, that perspective of seeing where things are supposed to be, and then figuring out a way to explain it to other folks. So I'm just excited about having another challenge, and the chance that it may not be successful makes it more exciting.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get a little personal. You surprised some folks today when you went up and played the guitar. Tell everybody about why and when you started playing the guitar.
Remember me saying I was from a musical family? So gifted violin, piano player, junior philharmonic, orchestra, marching band, jazz band, stage band. And and you're maybe the second best musician. So I've always been around music, always been around guitars. But one of the things that I did when I retired from the Air Force, when you're not a workaholic, there's this thing called a hobby. Right? This thing called a hobby. And so I said, I'm going to play the guitar every day. And I played the guitar every day for 8 years. Didn't miss one day. Sometimes that was hard. Took lessons, learned to read music. I could always love, and write songs, but it's just something, just something to do. Just something to, I was afraid. I says, wow, if you don't work, what do I do with my brain, right? What happens now? So, okay, let's attack this. And, we don't go halfway, we attack Erie.
So this question came from the audience, and it's something I think we talked a little bit about as we drove around Erie and we saw the changes, because I know when I came back in 2001, I wasn't really happy with what I saw and thought, I'm never coming back. First, this two-part question. What are your thoughts about where Erie is at now compared to when you were last here in 2008?
There's the bad and there's the good. I'll start with the bad first. I still feel there's a segment of Erie that's left behind. Erie has a higher unemployment rate than other cities of its size, particularly among African Americans. There was a time we looked at a couple of years ago where the unemployment rate for African American men is 44%, highest in the country. That's not where you want to be, number one. And I'm going to say something astonishing that's politically incorrect about education. I love the idea of a charter school, but in a city where you have two schools, I spoke at Erie High one day and Academy High one day. Erie High has a 20% dropout rate. Erie High, 1/3 of them go to college. And it's hard, and then you've got Collegiate Academy, which is near 100% college rate. Guess which school was cleaner and neater? Guess which school had more resources, right? And so when you scrape off the top, you don't have good role models and good people to link arms with the students that need a helping hand. And and I'm thinking, if I was here, I probably would have been at Erie Academy. Of course, Mom would have found a way to shoehorn me.
I was going to say, because Mom would have went to that school.
Mom would have, but I was probably, now Daryl would have been at Academy.
Yeah.
I would have been, and I think one of the things that I try to say about my story is that, it's not my success, it's a family success, it's a generational success, it's an Erie story. But I didn't get out of college until I was 29. And, I was 5 to 7 years behind my peers as a lieutenant, and I was more hungry. And I got promoted so early that I caught up with them, right? And then, I made general in 21 years. One other guy did it that year, Dave Goldfein, he became chief of staff of the Air Force. So, 2 people out of 5,000, 5 or 6,000. But you never get those years back. But my only point in saying that was that, and it's why I'm so passionate about this opportunity, 6 speaking engagements in 2 days, is that people like me today would probably have gotten written off, right? And I'm not saying me personally, I'm saying there are people like me, and we're at a time where we can't afford to lose any good people. We need all the good doctors we can get. We need all the good lawyers we can get, all the good CEOs, right? We need, that's why I'm so, passionate about, I said, why are we mad at immigrants? When I was here, everybody's grand, if it wasn't their parents, it was their grandparents, was an immigrant. That's right. Everyone, right? Polish, Italian, right? Eastern European, Irish. We used to go to school. Kids are mad at each other. This kid's Polish. They're mad because they're Polish. I'm like, gee, they're 2 white kids. What is it? I don't get it, right?
But you keep touching around this subject about you being a scrappy kid from Erie. Is that your motto? What do you use to get yourself motivated to get into the game? Is there anything?
I've been asked about motivated. I don't really see myself really as motivated. I have been intense. At times, I really felt like I had something to prove and that I had been written off, and I couldn't figure out how I could look another guy in the eye even if he was a second-generation officer and had gone to the academy, was a fighter pilot, was 6 feet tall and white or whatever else. I couldn't see how I could look in the eye and feel like they were better than me. You know, I just couldn't. I just never felt like, okay, great. All right, let's put it on the table. Let's see what you got. And I say, you give me a job, you give this person a job, and I'm going to win. And, you know, if I had it all over again, maybe I could have taken a little steam off the ball. Maybe I could have been a little bit more empathy. And that's something I'm really working on, is being less judgmental and more empathy, you know, and then more focused on team. But I don't really have a model. I didn't really know. I just felt like in this country, everything's available to you if you're willing to do the work and do the preparation. Now, I may have a harder road. I may have a more difficult path, but I have a path. And if I have to run through a wall or two, or through a doubter or two, bring it on. I'll run through them and send up better ones or run through those.
So what do successful leaders learn from their team, like some of your success and failures? So can you talk a little bit about that? When you evaluate your team and whether they're effective or not, what do you learn from that?
So from me, one of the challenges of transitioning to a leader is that, again, you notice, you know, some of the best athletes, you know, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, weren't the best coaches, right? So I really feel like if you have a team, then you want each person to be the best. You know, if Andre, Netta's sister's husband, now my girlfriend, her sister's husband, the Canadians, thanks for coming down. If Andre works for me, I want him to be the best Andre, not a mini Ed. And I think that's the thing, is that caring enough and taking the time enough and slowing down enough to say, making a person a better version of who they already are, not a watered-down version of you.
Okay. This one comes about the space program. Talking about the long-term and the future of the space program, U.S. and global partners, goals, timelines, and also a witness of creation of artificial intelligence, life elsewhere.
Is there a question?
Yeah, it's not just me.
Can I see? Let me just see what.
Come on. No, okay, hold on.
I'm not sure.
Please discuss.
So you know, I'll do what I usually do. I get to make up anything if I don't understand. Right? I can say any old thing.
Okay, hold on. So let me. Okay, please discuss the short-term and long-term future of the space program, U.S. and global partners, goals and timeline. They also would like to know about the creation in artificial intelligence and life elsewhere. So like the black hole. Yeah. So that's like 3 questions. You know, you could probably, you know, you could probably find, because I'm not really a space guy anymore. I mean, I retired, you know, from the Aerospace Corporation in 2019. Retired from Air Force 2013, and I'm really more of a FAA guy now. But in general, in terms of partnerships, our same partnerships we have on the land, sea, and air are the same partnerships we're going to have in space. Right, so it's not really about the technology; it's about the relationships and then extending that into another domain. You know, the creation of the Space Force, which is after my time. You went through all the same controversies when you had the creation of the Air Force out of the Army in 1947. So it's really about the partnerships, and it's the same folks. You know, Canada, England, Australia, New Zealand, and then working down maybe Germany. And it's about, you know, being able to use space as another way to ensure our national security and protect our friends in support based upon the treaties we already have. We are looking at going back to the moon, going to Mars. I think all those things are important. As for artificial intelligence, I have fooled around with ChatGPT. You know, Nassim sent it to me. I have fooled around with that just a little, and it's not bad. The people who say, you know, it's not, go try it for a few hours. And I think that artificial intelligence, if you think of what computers were like when I went to high school. When I went to high school, you still had slide rules. When I went to college, you had very rudimentary computers. It's going to climb up that same learning curve, right? That same learning curve. It's going to get faster and faster.
And I think, you know, becoming sentient, I don't know if that's a threat or not. I think it has a tremendous opportunity to error-proof your work by allowing you to do the same things you do, but doing them more quickly, just the same as I can with, you know, with a calculator. I can do, you know, adding and subtracting much more quickly. I can do it by hand. As for life elsewhere, I don't know if there's life elsewhere or not, but if you were someplace cooler in another part of the universe, why would you come here? Right? I mean, where would you go, right? I mean, would you go to L.A.? I don't know. I mean,
Disney.
right? Disney World. Yeah. So I mean, I think that you know, just from a statistical perspective, I don't know how likely it is that you would have ever had life on Earth. But when you start looking at they're finding now millions of suns that are around the same size as our sun that have planets that have similar characteristics as our planets that are the right distance. You know, at the speed of light, we're 8 minutes and 20 seconds away from the sun. You know, at the speed of light, if we are, you know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes closer, 2-3 minutes further away, you don't have life at all. So I just think statistically, if there's a couple 100 million of those, and this is just, I think there'd be a pretty good chance there'd be life.
If I remember correctly, you guys did launch a couple of those satellites when you were at
New
Patrick.
Horizon. Right. It's going out there. Right. But again, like the nearest star is the sun, so it's a trick question. The next one is Alpha Centauri. It's four years away at the speed of light, right? The speed of light, you go to the moon in a second and a half, right? So do the math on that. So chance of life, maybe, but so far away. And of course, when you look at the stars, you're looking back in time, right? If it takes 4 years for the light to get here, the light you're seeing now was 4 years ago. Light could be gone. So it's really a time travel experiment. I think life here has gotten so interesting, and it's gotten so. It's never mattered more in modern society how much money you have, how much your parents have. You know, when we were children, you know, we got by. Dad made $100 a week. It was fine. The richest people made maybe $100,000 a year, right? Now I got people struggling, you know, on 30, 40, 50,000, and CEOs are making tens of millions. Like, why does anyone need to make tens of millions, right? Right? And then when they make that money, why isn't it passed down to the people that do the work, right? And so now the incentives for CEOs are really about pumping up stock value. Does that really make the company more valuable? That's why I don't have Tesla stock, right? You know, it's like the business model, like, right? How many Teslas can they make, right?
Good point. So this one goes back to, I know we talked earlier today, yesterday, about Senator Tuberville holding up the nominations. Do you think that's going to damage or have an effect on our national security?
Politically incorrect again. I don't think so. I think that you know, you're looking at 4-star nominations and there's 3 stars behind, 2 stars behind. It's really inconvenient. It's really a problem. I don't think it'll damage our national security. It's not the generals who do the work. Generals do the leadership. I think it's really stupid, you know, and really vengeful. And you know, you have a person that really thinks leading a football team is the same as leading people in combat. And, like, they didn't win a national championship. Like, they weren't even that good, right? We're not talking USC in the 90s, right?
Oh, no, here we go.
You know, like, he never won. He went to Auburn, right? Not even with Cam Newton, Auburn, right? So you think football is the same as leading people in combat? You know, you're wrong, right? So you're not the brightest bulb, right? You're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, as you used to say. So, and it's another thing you kind of learn, all right, as you try to debate out politics, whatever, you know, you learn some people just are not rational. So why are you debating with a person who's not rational, right? And why are you expecting a person who is, you know, not too thoughtful to suddenly be thoughtful, you know?
I feel like we just had a conversation about this over and over again, so about dealing with irrational people, but I'll leave that alone. That's for another day. I'll call you tomorrow on that. Some statistics: 64% we have 64% of students of color in Erie. but yet only there are 4% people of color who are teachers. What kind of effect do you think that's going to have on the students who don't see role models or don't see themselves in the teaching population?
You know, I don't know. We just had the gym teacher, right, at Academy.
Only
gym
person
teacher,
I remember
teacher.
was Frank Williams. Was
Yeah.
my
And then
director.
you had music teacher. You know, I mean, I can't speak for other people. For me, having role models look like me. Again, I didn't realize it until I look back on it. But having role models look like me made a really big difference in my life. I think the challenge is that if a person, I think the problem is that, you know, we don't look at teachers with respect because what's my measure of respect? We don't pay them anything, right? And so can we come up with a model that allows teachers to be paid? And so if you're an African-American kid and you're smart enough to get a math degree, you know, why go be a teacher where in Alexandria you top out at 70 grand, you go to Lockheed Martin, you top out at 250.
Right. Yeah.
And bonuses. You can get into the senior leadership jobs, vice presidents in those companies, $1 million a year. That's scary money, but you know, and the thing is, if you have a minority person who's really smart, really good, everybody wants those people. So why are you teaching, right?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So it's competition, right?
It is. So right around the discussion around DEI, what does accountability and high performance look like in a system-wide DEI effort? Which you could use that last example with the teachers, right? But what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I only worked DEI for 3.5 years. I have been involved in DEI. Again, when we went to Emmanuel, we were the only black kids there. So we've been doing DEI for a long time, right? You know, we were diversity, right? So, and it didn't kill us. I would say system-wide DEI. I would say, in general, senior leaders really get it. In general, they do. It's very difficult to be a senior leader, vice president, director. It's very competitive, and by the time you get there, you usually have your act together. The challenge is that the first level supervisor, and what you experience in a company is not the CEO. You experience your first level supervisor. And that first level supervisor has bias in their heart, then you have a hard way to go, right? So I would say if I were to go back and start again with DEI, and we did this, I'd really focus with first level supervisor training, first level supervisor, helping them understand, helping them see, use sports as an analogy or whatever they believe in, and just say, hey, look, the best teams are diverse. All right, you like football? Show me a team that's not diverse is any good, and you're going down the line, right? And help them kind of see. I think also when you're an inexperienced manager, you hire someone that looks like you, not necessarily physically, but if you went to Penn State, you like Penn State grads, right? And there's some studies that show that if you can, let's say, and again, I think that I was lucky to grow up at a time when you didn't really, like the Air Force is worldwide, you didn't know what people looked like. So I'm sure that when my record came forward and said Edward Bolton, they didn't think it was a black guy, right? I mean, they talked to me on the phone, I don't sound that black. But his name is LaQuisha Johnson. There's studies that show if you have an African-American sounding name, you're less likely to get that first interview. So you can do efforts that take the names out, right? So if you go to Howard, you don't get that second interview. But if you go to Bucknell, maybe you do. So there's a few things you can do, some tricks of the trade. There's good research on it. But it really is all about the first level manager and having those first level managers kind of see the benefits to them of having a diverse team. Not because it's nice and it's right, because it's good business, because you're going to get your butt kicked by people who do have diverse teams. You get tired of getting your butt kicked, maybe it'll change.
I'm glad you pointed out, I know a lot of work that I've done with equity. You do have to identify those first level supervisors and support them on their educational journey and understanding what equity work really is. So I really commend you for going back to the aerospace and helping them with their efforts. And can you talk a little bit about maybe one of the little projects that you did with them with the college?
So we did one. So we came in, we put together a DI plan and goals. 2020 and 2021, we went back and did lessons learned. We brought in all the managers, and we had the top 200, I think, managers. We offered an optional VTC 2 days, and we got 80-90% participation to say, here's what we learned from last year. Here's what a good DEI goal looks like. Here's what the most successful people have done. Right? Because in the end, here's the thing. Stick with engineers. Everyone wants to be an A student, even if there's no money in there, right? To say, okay, and then we stood up, and this angered some folks, and we took the top 15 that had done the most and gave them awards and gave them a little money, like, hey, why didn't I? Yeah, hey, said, hey, well, this is, next year I had better participation. You just gotta be, think ahead, be strategic, be crafty. So there's lots of stuff online you can find. But a lot of it had to do with really providing support to those first level supervisors, providing them training, providing them, here's the data. Engineers love data, oh my God. What does the data say? They say, are we lowering standards? Are we no longer meritocracy? And I said, well, okay, I can see that it's human nature to believe a system that has worked for you is a meritocracy. Okay. Hey, system must be good. Made me a 2-star general. I'm done, right? But, being, like I say, hey, I'm a janitor's son who enlisted when I was 22 because he messed up in college. 29 before I became an officer. I did not go to a prestige school, undergraduate. Those blessings enable me to be more thoughtful when I see other people that don't go that standard road through path. And God bless the people that have it all together all the way through. Keep on chugging. But you know what? We need more than that. If this country is going to be great, here's the thing, right? So China is rising, right? Russia wants to recreate USSR. We heard an esteemed gentleman say the greatest force for freedom that this world has ever known is the United States military. What does this world look like if China or Russia is the greatest military power in the world? What does it look like? Is that what you want? So we need everybody. We need everybody, not just the A students not just the people who were great when they were 10. We need people who floundered around a little bit and figured it out at 25 or 30 or 40. We need everybody. I tell you, immigrant story, like people mad at immigrants. My girlfriend, Dr. Mojavarian, immigrant, came here from Iran, physics degree from a prestige school. The best job she could get was picking up pins at the floor at Nordstrom's. She worked full-time, went to night school, got a bachelor's. Worked full-time, went to night school, got a PhD, paid for herself, right? Now she makes about 8 times what she made at Nordstrom's. Paid for a house, money in the bank, senior systems engineer, radar, immigrant. Why don't we say, bring more like you? Right? Great American. Great American. Right? Great American. Why, well, right? Give me 10 of them. Immigrants made this country great. Let's do it again. Thank you, Dr. Mojavarian. Great American. And hello to her parents. They're watching, I think.
All right, General, last 2 questions.
Fire away.
You ready? Okay, so what's a part of Erie that you really miss? Careful.
I certainly, I miss sports. I played a lot of basketball growing up, played a little tennis, and, I was never that good, but I really gained a love for teamwork and a love for camaraderie, a love for hard work. My first example of hard work was really being in sports. A couple of guys that used to play basketball with this young brother here. This guy was on my championship basketball team. Dave Miner, really good under the boards. Mike Glover. Mike shot a little too much, I thought. Joe was our starting quarterback after Gary Martin stopped being the star quarterback, after Gary Martin got done with it, right? So I really love sports. I really want to be that guy. I was never that guy. And so I think that's something that if I am nostalgic about my youth, which I am not, it would be sports. I really enjoyed that. And then also, and I think a lot of it was just the time I remember even at 13, 14 years old, I'd get on my bike, ride all over the city. Rick Dunn, we'd ride, out to the beach, ride over to other neighborhoods and harass people, During the summer, we go around, check on the girls, see what they're doing. We're always curious about that.
I told you be careful.
Yeah, I'll be careful. I think that was clean. It was clean. I mean, really, couldn't get in trouble. But I think the freedom that I had to just go and live life and be free as a young person and make mistakes, and as long as I didn't kill anybody or get killed, you could kind of survive it and then, not have to be perfect and still be okay. And now you hear about kids getting their kids into the right preschool to get them on the Harvard track. Those kids, you go to, you work across the desk with that kid, and you think, hey, it's not that smart. I mean, at the end of it, they have to be able to do the work, right? They're overly programmed, overly parented, overly helped. And how you develop those independent skills? At the end of the day, someone's going to put you in an office, close the door. You're going to have to turn. You have to kick butt. You got to turn too. And I was glad I got a chance to live in a time where you could just be a kid and enjoy life and end up okay. So I wish we had more of that today, but I'm afraid we don't.
It's funny because I know we had this discussion when we found out who my running mate was going to be, and you alluded to this earlier where you talked about being that scrappy kid from Erie, and I just kind of remembered it as you were saying it. I couldn't back down from that guy because Mom would really be mad if I didn't. So
in her election, this is not a political conversation because I think there's politics and there's craziness. So she took out a MAGA guy. So hey,
72%,
72 to 28.
So. Last question, and I was asked this question earlier today, and I'm not going to tell you what I said, but I'm going to ask you, would you move back to Erie?
Does it snow here?
Zach response.
Hey, we want to thank you all.
You got to answer the question.
I answered the question. I think, I would certainly, here's the thing, right? I haven't been to Erie in 15 years. You haven't been in 20 years. I think I was at Danny Wee's house. We all hung out in like 2007 or something like that. That was my last. Dee Wees was still alive. That's the last time I was in Erie. But I would like to come back and we can figure out we can be part of something here. Talk to the bishop. Maybe we can have something where Dr. Bolton is a featured speaker.
See, once again, I'm trying to be retired, and you keep putting
and as I was saying, I was going to cut that off, and then maybe I'll do some schools or something. I'll target it, but we may put something together again for next year or the year after. But I'd be honored to come back to Erie, and Netta wants to come back. She's got a thing she may be doing at Barron, and so spending some time here, I could see that. We certainly like where we're living now, looking out the water, we're kind of good where we are, but we might spend some time in Erie and hang out if y'all will have me, and thank you. I would personally love another shot at those kids because I see them really thirsting for the knowledge and targeting and maybe doing a life skills seminar, focusing, nothing about me, nothing about my career, just enough to make sure they know, hey, someone should be listened to, and say, look, here is how you do it, more specific, maybe a couple of life skills seminars, a couple of here's how to deal with haters and things, maybe get some folks from the African American community to come out and support us, support a brother, right? Get the bishop involved. So we might put something together.
I can do that. It's not lost upon me when we went to the first school in East. I dropped out my senior in high school, and so I have friends here, Liz Sessler and Mike Furman, who never gave up on me, and we still connected, and I'm pretty happy where I'm at now, but which is why I'm on the school board, because I want to see every child succeed. So I will commit now to coming back.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.